and welcome to Adoptee Cuento Cuento. My name is Amy Kerming, and we are here because we're going to be doing a joint interview as co-founders of Adoptee Cuento Cuento. I'm passing it along to my next co-founder, who's on one of these screens.
Thanks, Amy. So hi, I'm JD Glenna, and I am also co-host, co-founder, and I'm so excited to welcome everyone to season 2. Amy and I are so excited for this season, and I don't know about you, Amy. I'm just like bursting at the seams to kind of like introduce folks, other adoptees. And I mean, there's been just so much learning over the last couple of weeks, just getting to know folks. What about you?
There's so much that we have planned in the future and so many things that we want to continue to share with other people. So the intent of this was to do kind of like a dual interview, kind of catch up and see what we've been doing since the first season. And then as a way to kind of transition into season 2. So I think we're going to kick it off. And I'm going to ask you, JD, what's been going on since season 1?
Oh man, there's been so much. And I feel like it's just been complete craziness since season 1. So I transitioned from being an East Coaster, and I am now in Texas. So I'm officially a Texan. And lately it's just been really getting to know more in the space of adoption, adoptees, getting to know where Filipinos are in the world. And a cool thing is I've been back to training and running, and been in a couple races and not so fun races, but I'm really just excited just getting back outside. With COVID and everything, we've just had to just stay on the inside and not get to hang out as much, but all of that is changing.
Fingers crossed we don't end up in another situation like that, but that sounds amazing. And that you're a brand new Texan. How are you liking Texas?
Surprisingly, I'm enjoying it. I'm really loving it. It's just different. It's a lot of difference. So what about you? What's been going on with you?
Well, I also have had a lot of changes. I was working from home for the past 8-9 years, even pre-pandemic, and now I transitioned to a new job here in Vegas. So I'm excited to feel like I'm part of the community. I work for Clark County now, and so I've been doing that, and that's been a lot of change, but that's been a lot of fun. And also I feel like I've been going out in the world a little more than I have been in the past, which is such a change, just to be around people and to be in crowds again. I've been going to shows almost straight for a month now, going to concerts every week. So last night I went to another show, and the lead singer was saying, like, I can't believe we're back in this space with other people and sharing music. And that's what I feel like when I go to live shows, that I need to like be there to experience music and experience concerts again. It feels amazing, especially here in Vegas. So there's been a lot going on.
Who is your favorite? Who have you been seeing? And tell me your favorite.
The last shows I went to go see New Edition with Charlie Wilson and Jodeci. That was a great tour, and it had all members of New Edition. I also saw Bruno Mars, who has a residency here in Vegas. I saw The Script last night. I'm representing for The Script. And then next weekend is a very exciting weekend because it's a BTS weekend. So Las Vegas is transitioning to accept all ARMY coming to Las Vegas. So it's going to be a wild weekend with all of BTS fans here in Las Vegas. But yeah, there's a lot going on. But
so Vegas is turning back into Vegas.
Vegas is turning back into Vegas. We welcome all of you to please come and visit so I can meet up with you.
Yes.
As far as the adoption space, I definitely feel more involved than I had been in the past. And I know that I'm excited to be participating in season 2 and see everything that comes up for us. So we're going to transition into talking a little bit more about adoption here between the two of us. For example, what interests you about adoption aside from your own personal story?
what interests me about adoption aside from my personal story? So I think what I really enjoy doing is speaking up for others who have been marginalized, right? There's been so many times over, many centuries where someone doesn't have that opportunity to have a say in things, right? Or they're not even believed, so they won't even speak up. And I think a part of why I really wanted this channel is to not only give a platform for adoptees to speak their truths and their part of their journey, but also, I guess, for me to see the different sides, right? We're adoptees, and maybe my journey only has been going all the way to the right.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what is the left. What is
Right.
what do birth mothers have to go through? What do adoption parents have to go through? What do other adoptees go through? And are they similar or are they different? So I think for me, just being able to give someone the opportunity to say anything that they have to say in terms of Filipino adoptees. I know that we come across a lot of different adoptee stories, but this is so unique for just our community, which
Right.
we have a great community of Filipino adoptees, but an ability to hear their stories is absolutely amazing, and I'm so thankful for it. So
Me too. One of the things that was really important to me in this whole thing was communicating and finding other adoptees. So that interests me about adoption is hearing from other people and hearing their stories. Just being able to communicate with people who have similar shared experiences as you is extremely important. I think what we learned during the pandemic is that we are all looking for connection, like whether we find out through, JD's in Texas and I'm in Las Vegas, like whether we're finding that through the internet and connecting that way and through social media and discovering new adoptees and their stories, like the most important thing is communicating and explaining and talking to each other about our feelings, the way we feel about adoption, the experiences that we've gone through, that we continue to go through, and being able to relate to each other. Especially Filipino adoptees was a space that I didn't see around a lot initially. I didn't, I say this all the time, like I didn't know that there were a lot of other Filipino adoptees out there. You feel so singular, but the one thing I can thank the isolation of the pandemic for was that I was able to connect to JD and I was able to connect to other people through a shared like video conference experience. I wouldn't have been able to do that had I, had we not had gone through that. So that's something that I'm thankful for, and something that interests me the most is communicating and listening to other people's stories. So in that, where do you stand currently on adoption? Are you for, or what are your thoughts?
So when I kind of learned about my adoption, when kind of like an exercise, let's do this together, right?
Yeah.
So you go to the internet and you plug in Filipino adoption, right? You will come up with one side of the story. And 99% of the time it is, are you looking to adopt? And I think for me, I really want to see, and I think it's important also if you're trying to adopt, is to understand what adoptees go through. That is probably, that should be the most important part, right? Because even though, yes, it is something that you want to do is adopt and have a family, create a family, there's a lot that goes into adoption that you should consider way prior to even applying, right? So I think that adoptee stories should be probably a lot more bigger, but they aren't. And I think our platform and many others, there's a lot of different websites that promote the adoptee perspective. It still doesn't ever come up more than the adopting wanting to adopt and how do you adopt. So I think that for myself, I am I want the right practices for adoption,
Yeah.
right? I want the right intentions for
Mhm.
adoption. Can we eliminate adoption? Is that something that should be imperative? I am for family reunification under the right circumstances. There might not be all circumstances that are great for reunification, but I don't think that I think humanitarian, do we want to say that no adoption ever because of some of the things that we go through?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that all orphans and children deserve a family,
Mhm.
whether that's inherited or that's something that we create even amongst ourselves. I think that I am for the right practices when adoption occurs. So
Yeah.
hopefully that answers your question.
That was a really good answer. So anything I say subsequent to that is probably going to be moot. But
No.
but
No.
I don't know, because I think about this all the time, because we do hear stories that are both positive and negative. Both of us are Americans, so it's a different environment here, I think, rather than internationally, in an international space. Adoption in America is looked at as, there's a lot of white savior complex happening. There's a lot of complexity when it comes to adoption. And so I am in complete agreement with you that I believe in family reunification. For sure, I think that that's a positive goal done under the right circumstances is important to emphasize. Um, do I think we need to completely eliminate that as an option for people? No, because there are so many children, like you said, who need homes and they need families and they need a space to develop into fully grown adults who are able to fully live their lives. So I'm not against adoption in that way. I'm definitely for a positive um experience done under the right circumstances.
Yeah.
Are we anywhere close to seeing that? I don't know.
Question, Amy. That's a
Yeah.
loaded question.
Are we close? I don't think so. But it's there are practices in place to try to make sure that these children are placed in a good home. That's not always the case, and it doesn't always happen that we have those positive stories. So I think people do need to see the other side of that. That's why we try to explore everything here in the confines of our space, that we don't want to turn people away by saying that we have entirely negative experiences, because we're here. So otherwise, how did we get here? But we want to explore the whole person. And so in that way, I will say, yeah, we can do adoption is great in that way. I think that we know where we stand, but I think that's something that we're going to continue to expand on and think about for each other. So I think that we can actually come back to this someday when we do a re-interview. But related to that, and you just spoke about the things that you would like to see in adoption. How long have you been in this adoption advocacy space?
Baby, brand new, like infant, like newborn.
Yeah.
You know what? One of the things when I started kind of researching about Filipino adoptees, I was just amazed at what work that people have already done that's out there, right? There are so many different Filipino adoptees that have been in the advocacy space way before my time. And
Right.
I was shocked. And I wasn't shocked because they're doing the work. I was shocked because I'm just, how come I've never seen these? I want to read each and every single one of them and support them. And I was like, I've been thinking about this forever, but yet I've never really got involved until now, until the ICAB presentation.
Right.
And honestly, every person that I talk to, every adoptee that we share our stories, every Filipino adoptee that has their Instagrams, their web pages, their artistry that's published, it's like I can't soak up enough of it. And I'm hoping through Adoptee Cuento Cuento that, right, we become at least a supporter of all of these different works, all of these different adoptees, and showcase what's already out there. So not just us, not just Aimee and I, but also the people that go out there and they publish and they do work day in and day out. And hopefully that we can connect with each one of them and show our audience, our adoptees, about some of the amazing people that are out there. So for myself, I might be a newbie and I'm learning from all of the folks that we have, a Filipino and non-Filipino. I mean, just the work that they've done. I'm just amazed.
Yeah, I'm also a newborn. I'm a baby advocate, and I feel like we haven't even like crossed the threshold of what this is going to look like. Because if you look at other people's spaces and the work that they've been doing for years, it's just inundated with questions and things that they've already seen. And I'm like, I can't believe that this has been happening, and I have not seen any for myself. But I think that just because I'm in a space where I'm open to speaking more openly about things, and I'm older and I want to know those things rather than being younger and not really being as concerned with it. But now I feel like I'm really concerned about where this is going and what other people in different spaces have been doing. There's always been a space for, like a particular kind of adoptee, just because there's been a movement of organization for them. There's a place that they can go, that they have resources, and then they can access those things. But I think for Filipino adoptees, in my brain, I feel like we're so small and not as, I'm not going to say disconnected. I just don't think that there's a generalized place that we can go where we can get those things as a whole. And so, that was kind of the thought process with me and JD, is figuring out, okay, can we provide that for us as Filipino adoptees?
Yeah.
And so we're trying. I mean,
trying is the right word.
We're trying, and we are both really optimistic about what that future looks like. So,
but at the same time, Aimee, like, you have, another YouTube channel, right? You do a lot of work already kind of publicly. So you've been in the space of being online, at least for a lot longer than I have. So I commend you.
Thank you. I always think that too, because I always think that there was this, the internet always provides like anonymity, and it always provides like, I didn't want the focus to be on me, like me. I always feel like that's weird, but that's what the internet is for. That's like what YouTube personalities are like. That's what the internet thrives on these days, is being able to speak up and speak out about things that you care about. And I think that that's just become prevalent in the last few years with the boom of social media. It's just kind of promoting yourself, and also having the confidence to go out there and speak on the things that you're passionate about. So I think that that's what we're discovering in this too. But directing it back to adoption, where are you at in your personal journey of adoption right now? That's something that we explored in season 1. I think individually for all of us was kind of relating to stories of where we are currently, but also figuring out where we're going to go. So that's where we are right now, is like, where are you in your process of adoption?
Where am I?
Yeah. Where are you?
To be quite honest, I think my personal story has been kind of paused. I'm more on exploring AKK, but I kind of did a search. Well, I initially did my searches very, very rudimentary.
Yeah.
I've done the ICAB thing, and they couldn't help me. Did they
say why they couldn't?
My adoption was not through ICAB.
Oh, okay.
So I don't get any help. And from what I'm learning is that I'm not the only one. There's a bunch of us. There's a lot of us who may not get that extra resources because our adoptions weren't processed through ICAB. So that's something I'm hoping to talk about through this season.
Yeah.
So I've done the Facebook searches, where you take out your adoption papers. You're like, oh, a name. I'm going to go to Facebook or, whatever, Google it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I've not had success. But then again, I think because I'm not getting the positive experience of results back, I put pauses. I go back to it every now and then. And it's something that I think takes a little bit of an emotional toll because at some point you're just like, you know what, am I going to find something? Do I have the bandwidth to get the same answer?
Yeah.
I am enjoying hearing others have that reunion experience, or at least I'm enjoying connecting with our other adoptees who have the experience to talk about whether they're ready or they're not ready. I feel like their success is a win for me to just hear about it. So that's kind of where I'm at my personal story. I'm not really kind of searching at the moment, or I think I visit it time to time, but I'm one of the stories where it may not be an option today or a couple years from now. Maybe it will happen in the future. But I just want to highlight that, for those of us who are searching continuously without the results we want, like, don't give up. We have actually an episode that's dedicated to search and reunion that's coming up. So stay tuned for that. But I think that that's something that we do want to talk about because it's emotionally draining. It's something that, we have to have that expectation for. So Amy, what about you? Where are you in your personal journey?
I think I don't even know if I talked about it in season 1, where I did ICAB was able to help me in contacting my birth family, which is something that I never expected to result in that ICAB conversation. I didn't see that coming, but they offered it to me and they asked if I wanted to try to do that search. So they did that for me and they were able to get in contact with my birth mother's sister, which was very neat. Just to be able to know that, wow, she actually does exist. Like they actually do exist.
Wow, Amy.
Yeah, that's been something that's been ongoing.
This is recent.
Yeah, fairly recent. It's something that I've been keeping track of since that whole process started. So I do have all of this footage that I can that I have available. That I do want to.
Can we pause on this? This is like huge news for like an adoptee, right? How, if you don't mind me asking a few questions.
No, please go for it.
So how was it working with ICAB? Because I didn't have the same experience. So I definitely want to hear like what that experience was for you.
Right. I mean, unexpected, because I for the most part, I had only heard about ICAB fairly recently as far as what they do. And so I didn't really know that they offered that they had the capacity to just do cold calls, basically. Like you're calling up, like initially when they started searching, they made a call to my adoptive aunt's house. And so I know that nobody's there, but they gave me the address and I was like, wait, that's my aunt's house. So that's somebody who's related to me now, not somebody in my birth family. So I thought after that email that wasn't going to result in anything, but then that they were able to reach out and find somebody in my birth family was mind-blowing. So they were able to keep me updated per thing that they did. So they said, okay, we're calling this house. This is the address.
Wow.
This is who picked up the phone. And I said, oh, yeah, it's a really detailed process, which was surprising to me. So when they did find my birth mother's family, they were able to tell me a little bit, some of the information that they got verbally from her, some very basic information. But the thing that really rocked my world and really kind of turned it on its head was that they did tell me that my birth mother passed away a few years ago. And so that was hard. That's something that I'm still processing and still dealing with, is trying to navigate your feelings for something that you've wanted like your whole life. I know that's something I've wanted my whole life. And to lose that connection was difficult, but it's also processing all the new information, like that I have a half sister, which was crazy, like crazy pants, that because that's also something that I've always wanted. And you always make up stories in your head. I think for adoptees, we do that a lot, just kind of the what ifs, or, you know, what other
But
circumstances.
you're not an only child anymore.
I'm not an only child anymore. I have somebody else who's biologically related to me, which is intense. But so I've been communicating with her a little bit through Facebook. You know, there's that language barrier to deal with, even though I can understand her on this side, she doesn't understand me on the other side going back. So that's something that I've been going through. But that's a bit about my personal journey fairly recently. So I'd say it's an ongoing process of what this all is and what it's meant. So that's something that I would like to explore further too.
Thank you for sharing. I will just say, Amy, that's a lot. That's a huge thing to undergo and process. And, you know, of course, the community is with you, and definitely I am with you. I'm excited for you in this part of the adoption story, and it's really refreshing to see, because you have me, who doesn't have any connection or reunion, but you have been able to have that ability. So I'm so excited for you. And
thank you,
man, Amy, thank you. Just thank you for sharing that.
It's a twist, and I can't wait to see what you have coming up with Search. What we have coming up with Search and Reunion too, to see what other people's processes and their journeys have been like, and see if that is something that we can relate to. So as speaking about our project, why are we doing, and why do we continue to do Cuento? Why do we continue to share our stories? We dived a little bit into this, but I'm curious, why do we continue it on?
So I got a couple reasons for that. I hear a lot from adoptees that, you know, we feel alone a lot, right? In the process, whether we just found out or we can't talk about things. Either there's a part of isolationism and aloneness that we feel. And when I found out, or actually prior to me even finding out, is that I knew two Filipino adoptees that I'm very close to. And I never felt alone in my process.
Yeah.
So to be able to share that and be able to offer folks an ability to reach out and say, you know what, I just found out, or I'm going through something, can you be with me? I think that's what the vision is for Adopti Cuento, is that we're a community to support each other, to ask stuff, to bond over stuff. I've never felt alone in that. And I want to say, one, because I knew adoptees way before I ever found out. And then to be able to connect today even more. I may not have a biological family, but I have, you know, a growing family that I am building of different adoptees, which I really just gives me a whole bunch of love and support.
Yeah.
So another part of why I wanted to do Adopti Cuento, and somebody asked it, they were like, well, why are you doing this on YouTube? Do you want to do a podcast? And I said, you know, no. For those of us who are are not in reunion,
Mm,
or those of us who grow up in maybe all white spaces,
right.
we don't have the ability to maybe see what our parents look like or our
Mhm.
siblings, right? So I wanted something that you have to really be able to connect with the audience and connect with the interviewee as the adoptee. We could see each other. We see
Mhm.
how different we are. Different adoptees maybe have darker skin tone, lighter skin tone, 6 feet tall, right?
Yeah.
Or shorter, or we're able to connect visually. And I wanted that to come through. I wanted I wanted for the visualness to bond us, and we can identify with that. She has
Yeah.
my eyes, she
Right.
has my facial features. It's a way to connect, and YouTube has a way to do that in a different way than I think that a blog or maybe a podcast does.
Yeah.
Second is we're able to really see Filipinos, Filipino Americans, Filipino Europeans, Filipinos in the Philippines,
Yep.
successes, and how we've all come from struggles, right? We've come from relinquishments, but at one point when we were struggling through it, look at where we can be today. And I
Yeah.
think when growing up, I was always waiting to see someone that looks like me
Right.
going through the same struggles, and do where will they end up? Am I going to end up like them? Am I going to be successful? And that's what I want to show,
Yeah.
right? Adoptees are diverse. Not only
Yeah.
what are different stories, but they're diverse in how we progress and how we process things,
Yeah.
and how we also develop, right? Some go on to be amazing mothers, or they're really developed into different types of careers. So part of that is to share that. And I'm hoping that that's what we are doing with Adopti Cuento Cuento.
Me too. I don't mean to steal, but I'll piggyback off of you and say something similar, because I remember last year when a lot of Asian hate was happening, and AAPI were really going through it. Joining that community, it was really important to see other Asian faces and other people that you could relate to, just on that physical level, like taking a look at everybody's face and feeling like we were in a safe space is what that felt like. And that made me think of this project. And then, like you just said, like, we're growing up in different spaces. We're growing up in white environments. We're growing up in environments that don't look like us and that don't reflect us. And so to see the diversity even within each other and our community is something that I would go seeking for if I was looking for community, and if I was looking for a space that I could relate to other people physically, which is something that we can't get if you're just listening through audio. I've always been a pretty visual person, and so I would go on YouTube anyway. But like I was, to piggyback off of what you said, I would rather see what other people have to say in their expressions when they're talking about something that affects them deeply or affects them emotionally, or I want to see how that affects their environment. Just everything about a person can be seen visually through the space of what we're utilizing, video and YouTube. We have other spaces that we're going to expand out to, but it was definitely important for me, especially for the first season, to be able to have a visual aspect to it and see a space for everybody, which is something that I also discovered during the ICAB thing. I thought it was really cool how we all did that through Zoom, and that we can see everybody and meet everybody there for the first time. So we've talked about it before, but that's why we wanted to do this project, and that's why we wanted it to continue, because we just thought it was so limiting. Like we just ended it there. Like it was only a 45-minute talk. Like we want to talk for like 3 days, not like 30 a full 30-minute just dedicated to us. So I think that that's important, why we're sharing our stories and why we chose to do a more visual season 1, but that we want to transition into different forms of medium in season 2. I'm sure I'm answering a future question, but that's why I think our project is important to us, is having that environment and that community space. So in saying that and thinking back to season 1, what did you take away from season 1, thinking about that season?
Season 1, I don't know about you, Amy, but I didn't know how many adoptees we were going to get. Like you and I, when we started talking about this, we were like, I hope we get 2.
Yeah.
If we can just get 2. That's all we need.
You're like, are we going to get any? I don't know. Yeah.
You know what? The biggest takeaway that I took is just that the adoptees, they want it. They want to hear more. They want to see more. And to be able to see what others have been putting out there. I've said this before, is that, I'm not the first Filipino adoptee advocate. There has been so many of others before us, right? And to be able to connect to that and support them. But I had highlighted it last season, is that, I remember reading Ashley Westerman's article when she found her mother, and just to be able to talk to her, one-on-one personally and in the group, that was amazing. And to be able to have those as resources and pull them for folks today, adoptees today. That's what I'm so excited about for season 2, is just to be able to say these folks have been doing great stuff. Let's, check them out, because we're not the only ones. Check out the work that they've been doing. And it's taught me a lot about adoption. It's taught me a lot about how I look at adoption. And it's also kind of challenged me and healed me as we go through this process. So I think that was the biggest takeaway. What about you?
Definitely something similar. It's just the fact that we had anybody signing up and wanting to actually participate, especially in something like video, which is something that not everybody is versed in. I was super, super grateful that everybody wanted to participate in that. But I think just learning that everybody had such different stories and so many things to contribute. In addition to that, like doing it visually, and you had people who were versed in that, and you had people who were just trying it out for the first time. Just being able to see what people could do with that was really interesting. Like Dan had a big background, and you're learning about different people and their stories. Dan had a whole journey on his that he went through, and like a physical, I went to the Philippines to have that journey, and Faith was interviewing her adoptive mother. It's just everybody has something to contribute that's going to be different. Like we're all different. We all share our stories in different ways. I just really appreciated them being there and learning so much about their history, and having them willing to share all that on like such a public platform. Like I'm so grateful.
They're so brave.
Right. There's a space for that. There's a space for people wanting to tell their stories, which is something that I don't think I realized either, is that there are just people who are waiting to have an opportunity and to have a platform to be able to say something more. And so that the fact that we were able to get 6 people coming on to share their stories with us was really important. And I'm sure the hope for both of us is that we're just going to get more and more people who want to share all their stuff with us too.
I mean, I give kudos to like Pastor and Faith. I kind of I don't want to say resemble, but I bond with them because it was their very first time of speaking about it. And I don't, before this, I wasn't really speaking before the ICAB presentation. It's
Right.
very hard to talk about, at least in a public setting. So for them to do that, I give kudos and just thanks to all that, because they taught us a lot too. But
They
just
taught
by
us a
starting us.
lot too. Yeah, that is for true. I think that those are our biggest takeaways from season one. So I'm interested for us to circle back to that in season two and find that question again and see what we learn following that season. But speaking of things that we've already been talking about, like what are we looking forward to in season one, season two, and season three? Plotting ahead.
I know it. Season two. Filipino adoptees are not only in the US, so that's probably what I'm really excited is to really learn where adoptees are and how does that have an influence, right? So we have some Canadians, Europeans, Filipinos that grew up in the Philippines that might now be living overseas. And also highlighting kind of more so of the adoption journey, right? So I think a lot of us have told our backgrounds, but a big part of what AKK really wants to support is how do we transition between different phases, right? How do we heal from maybe some of the hurts or some of the frustrations that I know that I've had? So we're going to really highlight that. We're really going to talk about some tough topics and really talking about, how do you search and reunion? And these are having different discussions with adoptees or with other Southeast Asians. And I mean, I'm just excited for the next two seasons. As we celebrate in November adoption awareness, we'll have even much more adoptees and different topics, and hopefully we can bring on more folks that can talk about the process. So I'm just excited to share what I've learned, and hopefully, Amy, you have just as much excitement as I do.
Yes, I'm also looking forward to all of those things, and then just taking a deeper dive into stuff that we've already been talking about. We talked about it a little while ago about search and reunion, going through and learning about more people's stories. Something that I'm interested in, this is just the side of me, has always been entertainment and in that space, but also something that I'm sure not a lot of people think about, which is adoptees in the entertainment space, which only comes up when you're talking about like jokes that happen on television shows or things related to that, like somebody makes an adoption joke and how is that looked at from an adoptee perspective. But also in addition to that, maybe films that focus on adoption. I know when I talk to other people sometimes as if they've all seen the same things that I have, which I find that that's not often true. And so I definitely want to put a note of exposure to maybe things that more resources that other people haven't seen before, maybe some films that people can check out. And it's all about, I think, relating to the adoptee experience as a whole, whether those films are, about Chinese adoptees or Korean adoptees. I think that's something that adoptees can find a piece of themselves that they can relate to. And it pains me personally that people have not seen these movies. So I hope that retains as like a resource in the future. Be like, hey, these are some great movies, and this is why you need to be watching them. And also highlighting maybe questions that you can have and something that we can talk about afterwards. So I'm excited about that aspect of it, in addition to our own personal stories and the people that we've connected to that we're going to be talking to about adoption. So there's a lot to look forward to, you guys. Like, everything is happening. But speaking of projects that we love, do you have any personal projects that are in the works?
Personal projects. I'm thinking of one. So I'm thinking of how do we process through different ways, right? How do we process our emotions in different ways through doing an activity? So I'm hopefully working on a project that talks about how do adoptees or different trauma related emotions, how do we what do we do with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, what did I do with the frustration of finding out? I'm not so sure. I don't know what I
Right.
did, but I don't think I did it in probably a healthy way, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's, for me, that's interesting. So learning when you go through something, and it doesn't have to be just finding out. It could be how did, finding out about your birth family. How do you process those emotions? What could you do with it? Because a
Mm.
lot of times I think when you find out about trauma stuff, or you happen to go through some trauma related events, it just sits in
Yeah.
you. And the purpose of what I'd like to do is discover how we can get it out. How can we what can we do with those feelings, and how do we process it in a way that it doesn't sit within us?
Yeah.
And that's always been a curiosity to me. So that's a personal project. Another personal project that I'm working on is connecting with different folks in the Philippines,
Mm.
and hopefully building a community there of different adoptees. And there's some other stuff that's going on in the Philippines that I definitely will be bringing up in the show. And adoption laws are changing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's cool.
I'm really starting to learn about that, and that's a personal project that to get not only Adoptee Cuento Cuento involved, but to also be able to be a resource if adoption is changing and there's going to be more adoption, right?
Yeah.
We are a resource.
Right.
So, yeah.
I'm
What about you?
trying to think of what do I have going on, but I did talk a little bit about that earlier, that that I've been recording my own story about the finding and the process. So I did record like snippets of me opening the letter for the first time, and things related to that. So I'd really love to put that together for it to become its own documentary. Obviously it's not anywhere close to ready yet. I would like to take it a little bit further, but I do have that planned to be in the works. So that's a personal project that I'm working on related to adoption, and just to show how polar opposite our our intentions are here. I have a side project. I mean, it kind of relates a little bit to, I would say it kind of relates a little bit to kind of the things that make us who we are and why we become interested in the things that we're interested in. I've always been really interested in people who kind of, I don't want to, the name of my project is called It's Okay to Be Obsessed, is the name of the project. And so it kind of explores like why we become interested or kind of fixated on the one thing that we're fixated on. Because if I love something, I love that thing for the rest of my life, regardless of what it is. If it's a television show, if it's a band, I am dedicated to you forever. So like in that way, I will be obsessed with you. And like, how do you get like this? I don't know. Personally, I don't know. But that's something that I want to explore with other people, and just kind of getting into people's psyches is like, what is the thing about this that comforts you the most? Like, does it come from trauma? Like, does it come from, a lack of whatever it is in your childhood that you're an adult now and you're looking at these things differently, or I just want to look into that a little bit more, which is always something I'm interested about. People who have like big toy collections, I don't know, it could be anything. So that's something that I have going on in the pipeline coming up soon. So I'd say it relates a little bit to that, but not as much. But definitely my adoption project is going to be more long term, so that's something I'm looking forward to and sharing here. But
Woohoo.
yeah, exciting. What advice would you share with adoptees and also adoption professionals?
For adoptees, connect.
Mm.
Reach out and connect. Even if it's just to just say, hey, I'm having a tough day. I don't really need you to do anything or say anything, but I'm just having a tough day. I think that's the number one thing. Even if it's just like, hey, I'm not terribly upset, or I get it, I'm adopted, but I just want to kind of know another person. I think there's nothing wrong with reaching out and saying, you know what, I like Dan was pretty friendly and I really identified with his story, and I just want to say hello. And at least I know for women, we love to connect, and I've at different points of periods of my life, I needed someone that kind of could help me along the way. So for adoptees, reach out, connect as much or as little as you want, but find one person at least that could be in your corner, and we could all be a support team for you. For adoption professionals, I think the biggest thing is be open-minded. I understand it's a business, right? Adoption is a business, but when the focus is on making it a business, right, that means that you're making us a commodity, and we shouldn't be. There's adoption if we look at it as a pen, right? So here's the start of life. The process of adoption is right here from when you get, if you're talking about a baby, but adoption really is like this entire lifespan. And that's where I have, an issue with adoption professionals, because they focus only on one part of the process. And I'd like that to change, to be more inclusive of adoptee and what they go through. So that's my two takeaways.
I appreciate that answer. That's a great answer as far as adoption professionals and things they need to be more aware of, I guess, in the adoption space. For me, I would share something similar for adoptees. I think it's important not to feel isolated. That's a lot of what I talked about in the first season, was those feelings of isolation and feeling like I'm alone and that I don't have other people that I can relate to. So I was very excited to be able to find other Filipinos in this space, because you're not alone. I think that's the most important thing to take away from that, is that there are other people who are sharing your experience, and you just need to find them. And we need to find you, because if we're not reaching out to other people too, like how else would we be found? So we need to, it's just like checking in on somebody. Like everybody says the onus is on somebody checking in, they should reach out. But if you're feeling that way, you don't reach out. Like nobody reaches out. Like it's the onus on your friend to be able to check in on you and ask if you're okay, because sometimes it's hard to reach out. I would also say in that same vein is, you don't always have to be, I don't know, I was going to say, you don't always have to be communicative. Like, of course you do. Like, how else are you going to communicate? You don't have to be anything but you. So, we're providing this space where we're open to seeing each other and talking in a YouTube space, but if that is something you're absolutely not comfortable with, you don't have to be. I'm not asking anybody to like push their boundaries. If you want to express yourself in different ways, like as an artist or as a musician or as a painter or as a writer, that's something that's open to you. And everybody processes things in different ways, and I think that's something that we're going to be able to explore more and talk about. But that space is also available to you in what we're trying to provide, is that not everybody is the same, not everybody is a monolith. But I think that also relates to adoption professionals, and not trying to kind of have this cover page of things that they need to ask us about, like that we're not under the same umbrella, and that they need to acknowledge, especially that our focus is on Filipino adoptees, that we're both Filipino and also something else. Like we're Filipino American, we're Filipino authors. Like there's always something else to see in us, and that we're all not just one adoptee. Everybody has different experiences. You can't put us under the same umbrella of like we all want to do search and reunion, we all want to see our birth parents. That's not necessarily true. And I've had negative experiences with people in the adoption space who are there to allegedly help you, and you have a negative experience, and that's kind of a setback. So we also want to be able to share in our stories to just tell other people what it's like and what we've experienced, and hopefully somebody can take away from that and learn going forward. I think that that's super important.
Well put. I totally agree with those sentiments. You come as you are and what you want to be, and it might even change. I think where I was in my adoption adventure 10 years ago, when I'm in my early 20s, it's changed to now. Yeah. So I think you're absolutely right. And to say, come as you are, and we are a diversity group. So we are completely different in our stories and how we show up and how we think, and that's okay.
Yeah. And we have a lot to look forward to this coming season and seasons in Cuento Cuento. So we're going to wrap this up for now. And I think this is something that we're going to do ongoing. So as our answers change, or as we continue to dive more into the space, I think our answers are going to shift and change. And we'll be talking about future projects. And but I love doing this dual interview situation, something we can do together.
I love it.
Yes, before we head into the next thing. So we're just wrapping things up here, but we wanted to do something fun together. So I wanted to ask you, what was the last thing that you really enjoyed, and whether that be like something entertainment based or something that you love, something that you binged? What was that thing?
Oh, this is so hard. I have no clue. Something I binged or enjoyed.
Yeah.
I love traveling, so that's I don't know if that's binging. I haven't really binged on anything. Lately it's just been connecting back to trail running and trail hiking, and traveling, exploring Texas through trails and different cities. So I think maybe that's it.
Yeah.
That's my off the whim answer.
That's fair. I think that's something that you're doing a lot of. So I mean, that's the last thing that you're doing. But I already told you before that I've been going to concerts and things. But
yours is fun. I love it.
But the last thing that I did binge is on Netflix. It's called Bad Vegan. And I'm the worst. I love con stories. Like if somebody's conning somebody into like a long game, I'm trying to figure out, it's like a whole psychology thing, trying to figure out this kind of maybe like cult-like behavior and how that relates, and how that person like got out of that state of mind. That's like super interesting, and I think that's the hot thing on Netflix right now. So that's the last thing.
I actually came up with something. So I'm a big, like, I don't really watch a lot of TV, but I'll watch YouTube videos.
Oh yeah.
So my favorite, like, I always have to watch, like, I'm into some creepy, weird stuff. Like what happens in the weird of creepiness, right?
Yeah.
So Mr. Ballin is one.
Oh yeah.
He's a storytelling, scary stories. Oh,
yes.
I can totally binge his. And then like I've been getting into lately just everything Filipino, whether it's like Filipino Americans doing podcasts, or I know that one of our adoptees has their own podcast as well. So just listening to different things that are Filipino based or Filipino American based.
Right.
I'm loving it.
That's cool. I definitely need to get more involved in the Filipino podcast, like spaces. It's just discovering what I connect to is, and then giving the time to that when there are just like so many other things is the only problem with that. But not problem, but
so many interests, too many interests.
So many interests, there are so many things. But speaking of so many things happening, where can people find you and connect to you, as we've been talking about?
Okay, so personal, I'm on Instagram at Lakadko. You can go to my Instagram and connect with me there, or you can connect with me on Instagram through our Adoptee Cuento Instagram. So I'm on both. I kind of I'm always lurking on different Filipino adoptee content.
Right.
So you can definitely find me on both. Also, this is like our premiere of telling everybody, but adopteecuentocuento.com. We have our website. So please subscribe to get our newsletter for every released episode. It will be put onto the website, but there's a lot of other stuff on the website as well, resources, and there are some adoptee content, Filipino adoptee content that will not be showcased through our YouTube. So we might have some art. There might be other Filipino adoptee work that isn't going to be shown through our channel, but they've done work outside. So you will actually be able to see other stuff that's being only through the website. So please take a look at our website, adopteecuentocuento.com, and you can also connect to both Aimee and I there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm also on the website. I'm going to have all my social links in there. I think I'm under my name pretty much everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. The only place that I keep to myself is on Facebook, because that's like the family side, but everywhere else I am open to everything. And we're both able to be contacted on our email, which we did change. We're now filipino.adoptees@gmail.com, because we didn't want to limit ourselves to just like Americans. Like, we know there are other adoptees on this planet, so we wanted to expand a little bit and expand on our name. So you can find us there in the website. You can find us there on YouTube. Please like and subscribe on our YouTube channel, especially because you'll be able to see all of our new videos, and you'll be able to help us out with that account. With more subscribers, we're able to do more. So that is super important. But we just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in to this channel. Since you're here right now, like and subscribe down below. And thank you for sticking with us thus far. We have a lot coming up for you. So hopefully you'll enjoy everything that we have to offer. But bye for now. Bye.